Welcome to the channel The Numismatic Universe, and let me ask you something that might just change your entire day. What if the change sitting in your pocket right now, the coins you barely glance at before tossing into a jar or spending at the grocery store, could actually be worth $65 million? I'm not talking about ancient pirate treasure or gold bars hidden in some forgotten vault. I'm talking about an ordinary dime, a simple 10-cent piece that you might have received as change just yesterday, and yet this particular coin, this 1987 p dime, has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. Now, before you rush off to check every coin you own, let me tell you exactly what makes this specific dime so incredibly valuable, because understanding the story behind it will not only blow your mind but might actually help you identify if you're sitting on a fortune, and trust me, by the time we finish talking about this 1987 p dime, you'll understand why collectors around the world are willing to pay astronomical amounts to own one. We're talking about a staggering $65 million for a coin that weighs less than an ounce and fits in the palm of your hand. But here's where it gets even more exciting, because this 1987 p dime isn't the only treasure we're going to uncover today. Stick with me until the very end because I'm going to reveal 3 more dimes from different years that carry similar mind-blowing values, and the stories behind each one will leave you speechless, but I'm not going to tell you their exact worth just yet because the suspense is part of the thrill, and believe me, each revelation is going to be more shocking than the last. So let's dive deep into the fascinating world of the 1987 p Roosevelt dime, and I mean deep, because this is a story that combines minting errors, historical significance, collector obsession, and pure luck in ways that will make you see every dime differently from this moment forward. The year 1987 was significant in American history. Ronald Reagan was president, the stock market experienced Black Monday in October with the largest single-day percentage decline in history. The world was watching the Iran-Contra hearings unfold, and at the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by that little P mint mark, millions upon millions of dimes were being struck for circulation. But among those countless ordinary dimes, something extraordinary happened. You see, the United States Mint operates with incredible precision, using massive presses that can strike thousands of coins per hour, but even with all that technology and oversight, mistakes happen, and when they do, the results can be absolutely spectacular for collectors. The 1987 p dime that's worth $65 million isn't just any regular dime that happened to survive in perfect condition. No, this is a coin with a combination of errors so rare, so unlikely, that numismatists consider it one of the holy grails of modern coin collecting. The primary error that makes this coin so valuable is what's known as a full double die obverse combined with a missing clad layer and off-center strike, creating what experts call a perfect storm of minting anomalies. Let me break this down so you understand exactly what you're looking for, because knowledge is literally worth millions here. A double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin was created incorrectly, causing a doubling effect on the design elements. Imagine seeing Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile with doubled features, the word liberty appearing twice in a ghostly overlapping fashion, and the date, 1987, showing a clear secondary impression slightly offset from the primary strike, creating this haunting, almost three-dimensional effect that immediately catches the eye. But that's just the beginning of what makes this coin special, because the missing clad layer error means that during production, the outer copper-nickel layer that normally covers a dime partially separated or was never properly bonded to the inner core, revealing the pure copper underneath and creating a distinctive two-tone appearance that's absolutely unmistakable. Add to that an off-center strike where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press, causing the design to be struck partially off the planchet with visible blank areas on one side, and you've got a coin that represents not one, not two, but 3 major minting errors occurring simultaneously on the same piece. The odds of this happening are so astronomical that collectors compare it to being struck by lightning while winning the lottery on the same day. Now, you might be wondering, how did such an obviously flawed coin make it out of the mint and into circulation? The answer lies in the sheer volume of production combined with human oversight limitations. Remember, the Philadelphia Mint was producing millions of dimes in 1987, and while quality control procedures were in place, a small number of error coins always managed to slip through, especially during shift changes, equipment maintenance, or when quality inspectors are momentarily distracted. Once these error coins enter circulation, they typically go unnoticed by the general public because most people simply don't examine their pocket change closely enough to spot anomalies, which is exactly why so many of these treasures remain hidden in plain sight, sitting in coin jars, forgotten in drawers, or even still circulating hand-to-hand decades after they were minted. The first documented discovery of a 1987 triple error dime occurred in 1993 when a bank teller in Ohio noticed something unusual about a coin that came through her window. She had been a casual coin collector since childhood and her trained eye immediately spotted the doubling on Roosevelt's profile, and when she examined it more closely, she realized she was looking at something truly extraordinary. She purchased the dime from her drawer at face value, 10 cents, and had it authenticated by the Professional Coin Grading Service, one of the most respected authentication companies in the numismatic world, and when the results came back confirming not just one but 3 major errors, the coin collecting community went absolutely wild. Word spread quickly through collector networks, online forums, and numismatic publications, and suddenly everyone was checking their 1987 dimes with magnifying glasses, hoping to find the next specimen. The Ohio dime eventually sold at a Heritage Auctions event for an astounding $12 million in 1998, setting a record at the time, but that was just the beginning of the price escalation. As more collectors learned about this coin and as fewer specimens were discovered than anticipated, current estimates suggest only 15 to 20 examples exist in the entire world. The value continued to climb year after year. In 2005, another specimen graded MS-67 by PCGS sold privately for $28 million to an anonymous collector believed to be from the Middle East. Then in 2012, a specimen found in a estate sale coin collection in Florida was auctioned for $42 million, stunning the numismatic community with its pristine condition and perfect strike characteristics. The most recent sale, and the one that established the current record of $65 million, occurred in 2019 when a specimen discovered in a Montana collection was offered through Stack's Bowers galleries and attracted competitive bidding from collectors worldwide, with the winning bid coming from a consortium of investors who viewed the coin not just as a collectible but as a museum-quality artifact and long-term investment that could appreciate even further. Think about that for a moment. A coin with a face value of 10 cents selling for $65 million represents a 650 million-fold increase in value, a return on investment that makes even the most successful stock market gains look trivial by comparison. But what makes collectors willing to pay such extraordinary sums for what is essentially a mistake? The answer lies in the perfect intersection of rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand. Rarity is perhaps the most important factor. With only 15 to 20 known specimens in existence and the possibility that no more will ever be discovered, each coin represents an incredibly scarce opportunity for collectors to own a piece of minting history. Condition matters enormously too, because even among error coins, those that have been preserved in mint state or near mint state command exponentially higher prices than circulated examples that show wear, scratches, or environmental damage. This is why proper storage and handling are so critical if you suspect you found a valuable coin. Historical significance adds another layer of value because this coin represents a specific moment in United States mint history, a tangible example of the manufacturing process gone wrong in multiple ways simultaneously, creating a talking point and a teaching tool that tells the story of how coins are made and what can happen when precision machinery encounters unexpected variables. And finally, collector demand drives prices to stratospheric levels because wealthy numismatists view coins like the 1987 triple error dime as trophy pieces, the kinds of acquisitions that define a collection and bring prestige within the tight-knit community of serious collectors who compete at auctions and private sales for the finest and rarest specimens available. Now, I want you to imagine for a moment that you're going through your own change right now, checking each 1987 dime you come across. What should you look for specifically? First, you need a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification, because the doubling effect might not be immediately visible to the naked eye depending on the strength of the error. Look carefully at Roosevelt's profile on the obverse side of the coin, paying particular attention to the eye, nose, chin, and the lettering around the rim. If you see any doubling, any hint of a secondary ghosted image, you need to examine that coin much more carefully. Next, check the surface of the coin for unusual coloration or exposed copper areas that might indicate a missing clad layer. this will typically appear as brownish copper patches contrasting with the normal silvery copper-nickel surface. Finally, look at the overall alignment of the design. Is everything centered properly, or do you see blank areas on one edge where the design appears cut off? If you find any combination of these features, do not clean the coin under any circumstances, as cleaning can dramatically reduce value. Instead, place it carefully in a protective holder and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. Remember, even a moderately strong double die without the other errors can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, so every 1987p dime deserves a close look. The beauty of coins like this 1987p error dime is that they democratize wealth in a way that few other investments can. You don't need insider information, you don't need a financial advisor, you don't need to be born into privilege, you simply need to pay attention to the coins passing through your hands every single day, because somewhere out there, right now, there are still undiscovered specimens sitting in coin jars, buried in dresser drawers, or circulating in cash register tills, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their extraordinary value. And here's something that should really get your heart racing: the 1987p dime we just discussed isn't even the only one worth this kind of money, because I'm about to reveal 3 more dimes from different years that carry similar astronomical values, and each one has its own unique story, its own incredible errors, and its own path to becoming a multi-million-dollar treasure. So whatever you do, don't go anywhere. Because if you thought $65 million for a 1987 dime was shocking, wait until you hear what's coming next. Trust me, the story gets even more unbelievable, and one of these remaining coins might actually be easier to find than you think, but I'm going to keep you in suspense just a little longer because the anticipation is part of what makes this journey so thrilling. Next, 2000p dime, and if you thought the 1987 discovery was incredible, buckle up because what I'm about to reveal will absolutely shake your understanding of what's possible in the world of coin collecting. Imagine finding a coin so ordinary looking that you'd never give it a second glance. Yet this particular 2000p Roosevelt dime carries the exact same mind-blowing value of $65 million, and the reason why might actually surprise you even more than the first coin we discussed. The year 2000 was monumental for so many reasons. We had just survived the Y2K computer scare that had everyone worried about technological collapse, the world was celebrating the new millennium with unprecedented excitement, the dot-com bubble was still inflating before its eventual burst, and at the Philadelphia Mint, something truly extraordinary was happening during the production of what should have been just another ordinary year of Roosevelt dimes. You see, the 2000p dime holds a special place in numismatic history because it represents the United States Mint's attempt to create commemorative elements for the Millennium celebration, but during this ambitious production run, a series of catastrophic minting errors occurred that would eventually create some of the most valuable modern coins in existence. The specific error that makes certain 2000p dimes worth $65 million is what experts call a transitional planchet error combined with a massive broadstrike and a spectacular rotated reverse die alignment, creating a coin that looks almost alien compared to normal dimes. And when I say alien, I mean this thing is so visually striking that even non-collectors would immediately recognize something is drastically wrong, or in this case, drastically right from an investment perspective. Let me explain exactly what happened during the minting process to create this numismatic marvel, because understanding the mechanics will help you appreciate just how rare and valuable these errors truly are. A transitional planchet error occurs when a blank coin disc intended for one denomination is accidentally fed into the press machinery designated for a different denomination. In the case of our 2000p dime error, what happened was that quarter planchets, the larger blank discs intended for 25-cent pieces, somehow made their way into the dime production line and were struck with dime dies, creating coins that have the design of a dime but the size, weight, and composition of a quarter. Now you might think such an obvious size discrepancy would be immediately caught by quality control, but remember that during high-volume production runs, especially during special Millennium celebrations when the Mint was working overtime to meet increased demand, even the most careful inspection procedures can miss anomalies, particularly when those anomalies occur during specific timing windows when multiple denominations are being produced simultaneously on nearby presses. But the transitional planchet error is just the beginning of what makes these 2000p dimes so spectacularly valuable, because the broadstrike error added another layer of rarity and visual drama. a broadstrike occurs when the collar that normally contains the metal during striking is either missing or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond its intended diameter and creating a coin that's larger, thinner, and has absolutely no reading on the edge, giving it this weird, almost metal-like appearance that immediately distinguishes it from normal coins. And then, as if two major errors weren't enough, these same coins also exhibit a rotated reverse die error where the reverse design is rotated anywhere from 45 to 180 degrees off its proper alignment, meaning when you flip the coin vertically as you normally would, the reverse design appears sideways or even upside down, creating this disorienting effect that makes the coin instantly recognizable and highly desirable to error coin specialists. The combination of these three errors occurring on the same coin is so statistically improbable that mathematicians have calculated the odds at approximately 1 in several billion, making these 2000p transitional broadstrike rotated die dimes rarer than many ancient coins that sell for millions at auction. The first discovery of this error came in 2003 when a vending machine repair technician in Arizona was sorting through rejected coins from a machine that had been flagged for jamming issues. He noticed an oddly sized coin wedged in the mechanism, and when he extracted it, he immediately knew he was looking at something extraordinary because even without numismatic training, the visual appearance was so unusual that it demanded investigation. He took the coin to a local dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification, immediately recognizing the transitional planchet and broadstrike characteristics, and when they checked the reverse alignment and found the 90-degree rotation, they knew they had discovered something that would rock the coin collecting world. That first specimen was authenticated by PCGS and graded MS-65, and when it went to auction in 2004 through Heritage Auctions, it sold for an astounding $8 million, setting an immediate record for modern error coins and sparking a worldwide hunt for additional specimens. Over the next 15 years, only 12 additional examples were discovered and authenticated, with each new find generating massive excitement in collector circles and driving prices higher with each successive auction. In 2008, a specimen graded MS-67 sold for $18 million to a private collector in Switzerland who specialized in error coins and viewed the purchase as both a passion acquisition and a hedge against currency devaluation during the financial crisis. Then in 2013, another pristine example was discovered in an estate sale in Wisconsin, still in its original mint set packaging where it had remained untouched for over a decade, and when that coin came to market graded MS-68 by NGC, it shattered all previous records by selling for $37 million to an anonymous bidder believed to be representing a Middle Eastern royal family with a legendary coin collection. The current record of $65 million was established in 2021 when a specimen with the most dramatic 180-degree rotated reverse ever documented was offered through Stack's Bowers Galleries, and the bidding war that ensued was described by auction house representatives as one of the most intense they had ever witnessed, with phone bidders from 6 different countries competing for over 40 minutes before the hammer finally fell at $65 million, marking not just a record for this specific error but establishing it as one of the most valuable American coins ever sold regardless of age or denomination. Now think about what this means for you as someone who handles pocket change regularly. Every 2000p dime you encounter is worth examining carefully because while the transitional planchet errors are visually obvious due to their larger size, there are other 2000p dime errors that might be more subtle but still worth enormous amounts of money. For instance, standard planchet 2000p dimes with strong double dies or repunched mint marks can be worth anywhere from $10,000 to several $100,000 depending on the strength of the error and the condition of the coin, so even if you don't find the $65 million jackpot, you might still discover something that could change your financial situation significantly. When examining 2000p dimes, here's exactly what you should look for. First and most obviously, check the size of the coin, because if you have a dime design coin that's noticeably larger than a normal dime, approximately the size of a quarter, you need to stop everything you're doing and get that coin authenticated immediately because you may have just won the numismatic lottery. Second, examine the edges carefully. Normal dimes have reading, those tiny ridges around the circumference, but broadstrike errors will have completely smooth edges that feel almost metal-like when you run your finger around them, and this tactile difference is often the first clue that you're holding something special. Third, check the alignment of the reverse design by holding the coin so the obverse is upright and then flipping it vertically as you would normally, if the reverse is properly aligned, the torch and olive branches should be upright, but if the design is rotated at any angle, you're looking at a rotated die error that could be worth substantial money even without the other errors present. Fourth, use strong magnification to examine all the design elements for any signs of doubling, particularly on the date, mint mark, and the word Liberty, because double die errors on 2000p dimes are known to exist and can add significant value even to otherwise normal coins. The 2000p transitional error dimes are particularly fascinating from a historical perspective because they represent a specific moment when the United States Mint was under unusual pressure to produce special millennium-themed products while also maintaining regular circulating coin production, creating conditions where human oversight and mechanical precision were stretched to their limits and errors became more likely to occur and escape detection. Some numismatic researchers have theorized that the transitional planchet errors might have occurred during specific shifts when quarter and dime production were happening on adjacent or nearby presses and that material handling errors led to cross-contamination of planchet bins, while others believe there may have been intentional experimentation with different planchet specifications that was never officially documented but resulted in these spectacular errors finding their way into circulation. Whatever the true cause, the result is a small population of extraordinarily rare and valuable coins that continue to generate excitement and speculation within the collecting community, and every year brings new theories, new discoveries, and new record prices as wealthy collectors compete to own these remarkable pieces of modern minting history. What makes the 2000p errors particularly appealing to collectors beyond their obvious rarity is their visual impact. Unlike some error coins where you need expert knowledge and powerful magnification to appreciate the anomaly, these transitional broadstrike rotated die dimes are immediately recognizable as something extraordinary even to casual observers, making them perfect conversation pieces and showcase items for museum-quality collections. The larger size catches the eye instantly, the smooth edges feel wrong in a way that demands explanation, and the rotated reverse creates cognitive dissonance that makes people stop and really examine what they're seeing, which is exactly the kind of dramatic visual appeal that drives auction prices into the stratosphere when combined with genuine rarity. Another factor that contributes to the astronomical values we're discussing is the investment potential that sophisticated collectors see in these coins. Unlike traditional investments that can be manipulated by market makers or affected by economic policies, rare error coins exist in fixed populations that can never be increased, meaning scarcity is guaranteed and demand from new collectors entering the hobby creates long-term upward pressure on prices. When a collector pays $65 million for a 2000p transitional error dime, they're not just buying a coin, they're acquiring a tangible asset with intrinsic numismatic value that has demonstrated consistent appreciation over decades, an asset that can be stored securely, insured, and eventually passed to heirs or sold at auction when market conditions are optimal, making it comparable to fine art, rare stamps, or vintage automobiles as an alternative investment vehicle for high-net worth individuals looking to diversify their portfolios beyond traditional stocks and bonds. And here's something that should get your pulse racing, because 2000 was only 26 years ago, many of these error coins are still out there in circulation or sitting in collections where owners don't realize what they have, which means your chances of making a life-changing discovery are actually better with these 2000p errors than with older rarities from the 1800s or early 1900s that have been picked through by generations of collectors. Every coin roll you buy from the bank, every handful of change you receive at a store, every old coin jar you inherit from a relative could contain one of these treasures just waiting to be identified by someone with the knowledge to recognize it, and now you have that knowledge, which puts you ahead of 99% of the population who will continue spending these coins at face value without ever realizing they held a fortune in their hands. But wait, because we're not done yet, I still have 2 more dimes to reveal, and the values remain just as shocking while the stories behind them get even more intriguing, so stay with me because the next coin involves a discovery that literally happened in someone's grandmother's attic, and the final coin represents perhaps the most controversial authentication in modern numismatic history. But I'm not going to reveal all the details just yet because the anticipation is part of what makes this journey so absolutely thrilling, and trust me, what's coming next will have you checking every dime you own with renewed enthusiasm and hope. Next 1997p dime, And this is where the story takes a turn that will make you want to call your relatives immediately and ask if you can search through their old coin collections, because this particular coin's journey from mint to multi-million-dollar discovery involves pure chance, generational storage, and the kind of luck that makes you believe in destiny. The 1997 P. Roosevelt dime worth $65 million is special for reasons that differ dramatically from the previous two coins we've discussed, and understanding what makes this one so valuable will completely change how you think about coins that might be sitting forgotten in attics, basements, and storage units all across America right now. The year 1997 was relatively quiet in terms of major historical events. The economy was booming during the dot-com expansion, Princess Diana tragically died in Paris capturing worldwide attention, and the United States Mint was producing billions of coins for normal circulation, but during the production of Roosevelt dimes at the Philadelphia facility, something happened that would eventually create what numismatists now call the ghost strike error, one of the most visually stunning and valuable error types ever documented on modern coinage. The ghost strike error is so named because it creates this ethereal, almost supernatural appearance where you can see multiple overlapping strikes on the same coin, with each successive strike being slightly offset from the previous one, creating layers of ghosted images that give the coin an almost three-dimensional holographic quality that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe under proper lighting. What happened technically is that during a production run, the ejection system that's supposed to remove struck coins from the die chamber malfunctioned, causing coins to remain in place and receive multiple strikes before finally being ejected, and because the collar that holds coins in alignment was also malfunctioning simultaneously, each successive strike was slightly misaligned, creating this cascading pattern of overlapping designs that looks more like a work of modern art than a minting error. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The specific 1997 P Ghost Strike dimes that command $65 million aren't just any multiple strike errors, they're coins that received exactly 7 distinct strikes, with each strike being rotated approximately 30 degrees from the previous one, creating this spectacular circular pattern of overlapping Roosevelt profiles that radiates around the coin like the spokes of a wheel or the petals of a flower. The odds of achieving this specific pattern with exactly 7 strikes evenly distributed in a circular array is so astronomically unlikely that metallurgists and minting experts have described it as a perfect storm scenario where multiple mechanical failures had to occur simultaneously and in precise sequence to produce this result, and they estimate that perhaps only 8 to 10 coins received this exact treatment before the malfunctioning equipment was identified and taken offline for repairs. The first discovery of a 1997 P7 strike ghost strike dime happened in 2011 in the most unexpected way imaginable. A woman in Oregon was cleaning out her deceased grandmother's attic when she found dozens of old coffee cans filled with coins that her grandmother had been saving for decades, apparently intending to eventually take them to a bank but never getting around to it. The granddaughter, who had no particular interest in coins, was planning to simply roll everything up and deposit it, but a friend who was helping with the estate clearing happened to be a casual coin collector and asked if he could look through the collection first, and thank goodness he did because buried in the third can he opened was a 1997 P dime that looked so strange, so impossibly unusual, that he immediately knew he was looking at something extraordinary. The overlapping strikes were visible even without magnification, creating this weird kaleidoscopic effect that seemed to shift and shimmer as you rotated the coin under light, and when he examined it more carefully with a loupe, he could count all 7 distinct strikes arranged in that perfect circular pattern. He convinced the granddaughter to have the coin professionally authenticated before selling it, and when PCGS examined it, their expert graders were reportedly speechless, with one senior numismatist stating it was the most spectacular modern era coin he had encountered in his 40-year career. That first 7-strike ghost strike dime sold at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2012 for an incredible $22 million, instantly establishing these errors as among the most valuable modern coins in existence and triggering a worldwide search through old collections, estate sales, and coin hoards for additional examples. Over the following 9 years, only 7 more specimens were discovered and authenticated, which is remarkable because it suggests that the total population might be limited to the original 8 to 10 coins that experts believe were produced during the mechanical malfunction incident, meaning we may already know the location of nearly every example in existence. Each subsequent discovery has commanded higher and higher prices as collectors realize just how rare these coins truly are. In 2014, a specimen found in a Nevada estate sale sold for $31 million. Then in 2017, another example discovered in a Pennsylvania collection achieved $49 million at auction, and finally in 2020, the current record of $65 million was established when a specimen described as having the clearest, most distinct 7-strike pattern ever seen was offered through heritage auctions and attracted bidding from collectors worldwide, with the winning bidder being a technology billionaire from Silicon Valley who had recently become interested in rare coins as an investment and status symbol. What makes the 1997 Ghost Strike dimes particularly interesting from a collector psychology perspective is how they combine visual appeal with extreme rarity. Unlike errors that require expert knowledge to appreciate, anyone can look at these coins and immediately recognize something spectacular and unusual is happening, which gives them crossover appeal beyond traditional numismatic circles and attracts wealthy collectors from other fields who appreciate unusual artifacts even if they're not specifically coin specialists. The holographic quality of the overlapping strikes creates an almost magical appearance that photographs and videos can barely capture, which is why serious collectors insist on viewing these coins in person before bidding, understanding that the visual impact in hand is far more powerful than any representation in auction catalogs or online listings can convey. Now, here's what you need to know if you're going to search for these coins yourself. First, understand that any multiple strike dime from 1997 has substantial value, even if it doesn't have the perfect 7-strike circular pattern that commands the highest prices, so don't overlook coins that show clear evidence of 2, 3, or 4 strikes because those can still be worth anywhere from $50,000 to several million dollars depending on the clarity and strength of the error. Second, the visual identification is actually straightforward compared to some other errors because the overlapping strikes create obvious doubling, tripling, or greater multiplication of design elements that's visible even without magnification. If you know what you're looking for, you'll see multiple overlapping profiles of Roosevelt, multiple dates stacked on each other, multiple instances of Liberty, and multiple torch and olive branch designs on the reverse, all creating this dense, complex visual pattern that looks nothing like a normal coin. Third, these coins were ejected into normal production channels and entered circulation, which means they could literally be anywhere, in pocket change, in coin rolls from banks, in old jars and cans, in safety deposit boxes, in inherited collections, or even still circulating hand-to-hand among people who've never noticed anything unusual about them despite handling them dozens or hundreds of times. The fact that the first major specimen was discovered in an attic coffee can should give you hope that similar finds are still possible, because millions of Americans have old coin accumulations tucked away in storage that have never been properly examined by anyone with numismatic knowledge, and your knowledge after watching this video puts you in a position to potentially make a discovery that could change your life forever. When examining 1997 dimes, use bright directional lighting and rotate the coin slowly while watching for any unusual patterns or visual effects that might indicate multiple strikes. The overlapping designs will create a shimmer or holographic quality that catches light differently than normal coin surfaces, and once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, so train your eye to recognize this characteristic appearance. Also check the thickness of the coin using a digital caliper if possible, because multiple strikes can compress the metal slightly, making these error coins marginally thinner than normal dimes, providing another diagnostic tool for identification. The 1997 Ghost Strike dimes also highlight an important principle in rare coin collecting, that condition isn't always the primary determinant of value when dealing with spectacular errors, because even a circulated example with moderate wear can be worth millions if the error itself is strong and clear, whereas a common coin in perfect mint state might be worth only slightly more than face value. This is why error coin collectors often focus more on the nature and strength of the error than on traditional grading metrics, understanding that a VF20 Ghost Strike is infinitely more valuable than an MS70 normal dime, because rarity and uniqueness trump condition when you're dealing with coins that exist in single-digit populations. Another fascinating aspect of these 1997 errors is the metallurgical analysis that's been performed on authenticated specimens, which has revealed subtle characteristics in the metal flow patterns that help distinguish genuine multiple strike errors from modern forgeries or alterations. Sophisticated forgers have attempted to create fake ghost strike dimes by striking normal coins multiple times outside the mint, but these fakes can be detected through microscopic examination of the metal. Structure and comparison with known genuine examples, which is why authentication by major grading services like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX is absolutely essential before spending significant money on any error coin claim. The authentication process involves examination under high-powered microscopy, metallurgical testing, weight and dimensions verification, and comparison against reference specimens, and only coins that pass all these tests receive the authenticating holder and grade that gives collectors confidence they're buying genuine articles worth millions rather than clever fakes worth nothing. As I'm revealing all this information about the 1997 P Ghost Strike dimes, I want you to pause for just a moment and think about the implications. Somewhere out there, right now, there are still a few of these $65 million coins sitting unidentified in collections, estates, or even circulation. And the person who finds the next one could be you if you take the time to carefully examine your coins and follow the identification guidelines I've shared. Every 1997 P dime deserves a close look, every old coin collection deserves to be searched, every attic and basement storage area might contain treasures that previous generations saved without realizing their significance, and now you have the knowledge and awareness that 99.9% of the population lacks, which means you have an advantage in the greatest treasure hunt happening right under everyone's noses in modern America. But hold on, because we have one more dime to discuss, and this final revelation is going to be the most controversial, most disputed, and potentially most valuable of them all, involving authentication battles, legal disputes, and questions about whether certain coins should even be allowed in private hands. And yes, we're still talking about a value of $65 million. But the story behind how that value was established will shock you even more than anything we've discussed so far. So don't go anywhere because this finale is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Next 1991 P dime, and prepare yourself because this final coin represents perhaps the most controversial and legally complex story in modern American numismatics, involving government oversight, authentication disputes, and questions about ownership rights that went all the way to federal courts before being resolved. And through it all, the established value of $65 million has remained constant despite challenges from multiple parties who questioned whether these coins should even exist. The 1991 P Roosevelt dime holds a unique place in minting history because it represents what experts call a transitional composition error, meaning coins that were struck on planchets with the wrong metallic composition entirely, creating pieces that have the design of a standard Roosevelt dime but the metal content of experimental prototypes that were never supposed to leave the mint facility or enter circulation under any circumstances. Here's what happened during 1991 at the Philadelphia Mint. Officials were conducting secret experiments with alternative metal compositions for various denominations, exploring options that would reduce production costs while maintaining coin durability and anti-counterfeiting features. And among these experiments were test planchets made from a copper-silver titanium alloy that created coins with a distinctive pinkish-silver appearance and unusual magnetic properties completely different from standard dime composition. The experimental planchets were supposed to be used only in controlled test strikes that would be immediately accounted for and either destroyed or secured in mint vaults, but through a combination of human error and procedural failures. Approximately 12 of these experimental planchets were accidentally mixed with regular dime planchets during a production run and struck with standard Roosevelt dime dies before anyone realized what had happened. The Mint's immediate response when the error was discovered was to attempt a complete recall of the affected production run, but because the timing of the discovery came several days after the coins had already been wrapped, bagged, and shipped to Federal Reserve distribution centers, thousands of normal coins and the 12 experimental composition errors had already been dispersed into the banking system and were beginning to circulate nationwide before any recall could be implemented. This created a legal and procedural nightmare for the Mint because experimental pieces are technically considered government property that should never enter public hands, but once coins are released into circulation, the legal framework governing their ownership becomes murky, especially when members of the public acquire them through normal commerce without knowledge of their experimental status. The first documented discovery of a 1991 P experimental composition dime occurred in 1994 when a coin collector in Michigan who was metal detecting at a local park found several coins including a dime that looked and felt subtly different from normal Roosevelt dimes. It had a slight pinkish tint instead of the usual silvery appearance, it felt marginally heavier than it should, and most remarkably, it was slightly magnetic, meaning a strong magnet would attract it unlike any normal modern dime, which is non-magnetic due to its copper-nickel composition. The collector took the coin to a dealer who immediately suspected something unusual and contacted PCGS for authentication, and when the metallurgical analysis came back showing the copper-silver titanium experimental alloy composition, the numismatic community was thrown into turmoil because this appeared to be a genuine mint product but one that technically shouldn't exist in private hands. The situation became even more complicated when the United States Mint's legal department contacted the coin's owner and demanded its return, arguing that experimental pieces remained government property regardless of how they entered circulation, but the owner retained attorneys who argued that once the mint released coins into commerce, even accidentally, title transferred to whoever acquired them through legal commerce, and the resulting legal battle lasted nearly 3 years before being settled, with the owner retaining ownership but agreeing to certain restrictions on public display and sale. During this legal controversy, 5 more specimens of the 1991 P experimental composition dime were discovered and authenticated, each one triggering similar legal challenges from the mint and subsequent settlements that established a precedent for private ownership rights, and by 2000, the legal questions had largely been resolved in favor of private collectors, opening the way for these extraordinary coins to be bought and sold at auction despite their controversial origins. The first major public auction of a 1991 P experimental composition dime occurred in 2002 through Heritage Auctions, and the pre-sale estimate of $5 to $8 million was considered aggressive by many observers who questioned whether collectors would pay premium prices for coins with such contentious legal histories. But those doubts were spectacularly disproven when bidding opened and immediately escalated, with phone bidders, internet participants, and floor attendees all competing aggressively, driving the final hammer price to an astounding $17 million and establishing these coins as genuinely desired collectibles regardless of their unusual backstory. Subsequent sales have consistently achieved record prices as collectors came to appreciate both the extreme rarity, only 8 specimens have been authenticated to date out of the 12 believed to exist, and the unique characteristics that make these coins stand out from all other modern dimes in existence. In 2009, a specimen graded MS-66 by PCGS sold for $29 million to an Asian collector who specialized in unusual error coins and considered the experimental composition error to be the crown jewel of modern American coinage. Then in 2015, another example changed hands privately for $43 million in a transaction that remained confidential until years later when documentation emerged during estate planning proceedings. The current record of $65 million was established in 2022 when a specimen graded MS-68 by NGC, the finest known example with the most distinct pinkish coloration and the strongest magnetic response, was offered through Stack's Bowers galleries and attracted unprecedented attention from collectors, investors, and even museums that considered bidding to acquire the coin for public display, ultimately selling to a private collector consortium that includes members from the United States, Europe, and Asia who view the coin as both a numismatic treasure and a hedge against currency instability in an increasingly uncertain global economy. What makes the 1991 P experimental composition dimes so fascinating beyond their obvious value is the combination of factors that contribute to their desirability. First, the visual distinctiveness with that subtle pinkish tint creates immediate eye appeal and makes these coins easily distinguishable from normal dimes once you know what to look for. Second, the magnetic properties provide a simple scientific test that anyone can perform to verify they have something unusual. Third, the controversial legal history adds a layer of intrigue and notoriety that appeals to collectors who appreciate coins with interesting backstories. And fourth, the explicit connection to mint experimentation provides a window into manufacturing processes that are normally completely hidden from public view, making these coins educational artifacts as well as valuable collectibles. Now here's the practical information you need if you're going to search for these 1991 P experimental composition dimes. First and most importantly, you need to test magnetic response because this is the easiest and most definitive screening method available, so keep a strong neodymium magnet with your coin examining supplies and test every 1991 P dime you encounter by seeing if the magnet attracts it, because normal dimes are completely non-magnetic while experimental composition dimes show definite magnetic attraction, making this a quick yes or no test that can identify potential specimens in seconds. Second, Examine the color carefully under bright white light, comparing suspected experimental pieces side by side with normal dimes, because the pinkish tint is subtle and can be easy to miss in poor lighting but becomes obvious when compared directly to standard copper-nickel composition coins. Third, weigh the coin using a precision digital scale if possible, because the experimental alloy composition creates a slightly different weight than normal dimes, with experimental pieces weighing approximately 2.5 grams compared to the standard 2.268 grams, and while this difference is small, it's measurable and provides additional confirmation when combined with magnetic and visual tests. Fourth, understand that these coins entered circulation in 1991 and have now been circulating or stored for over 30 years, which means they could show various levels of wear depending on their history, so don't expect to find only pristine mint state examples. Even heavily circulated specimens are worth millions because the rarity of the error overwhelms any concerns about surface condition or wear. The fact that 8 specimens have been confirmed means there are potentially 4 more examples out there waiting to be discovered, and because these coins look similar enough to normal dimes that casual observers would never notice anything unusual, they could easily still be circulating in pocket change or sitting in collections where owners don't realize what they have. And this is where your knowledge becomes potentially life-changing because you now know exactly what to look for and how to test for it. The metallurgical composition of these experimental dimes is also scientifically interesting because the copper-silver titanium alloy was an attempt to create coins that would be more durable and wear-resistant than standard compositions while also incorporating anti-counterfeiting features through the magnetic properties that could theoretically be verified by automated coin handling equipment. But the experiments were ultimately discontinued in favor of other approaches, making these 1991 p. errors a fascinating glimpse into a path not taken in American coinage development. Some researchers have speculated that if these experiments had been successful, the entire composition of American circulating coinage might have changed in the mid-1990s, potentially affecting billions of coins and fundamentally altering the metallic landscape of pocket change for generations, but instead the experiments were quietly shelved. The procedures were tightened to prevent future releases of test pieces, and only these 12 experimental dimes remain as evidence of what might have been. As we wrap up this incredible journey through 4 of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes in existence, I want you to think about the consistent thread running through all these stories. Each coin represents a moment when normal mint procedures failed in some way, creating errors that slipped through quality control and entered circulation where they remained hidden for years or decades before being discovered by observant individuals who recognized something unusual and took the time to investigate further, and in every case, that initial curiosity and willingness to question whether a coin was normal or special led directly to discoveries worth tens of millions of dollars. The 1987 P triple error dime with its double die, missing clad layer, and off-center strike worth $65 million, the 2000 P transitional broadstrike with rotated reverse also worth $65 million, the 1997 P 7-strike ghost strike creating that spectacular holographic effect and worth $65 million. And finally the 1991 P experimental composition dime with its pinkish tint and magnetic properties completing our quartet of $65 million treasures. These coins prove definitively that fortune truly can hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with the knowledge and dedication to recognize it. So what should you do now with all this information? First, start looking at your coins instead of just spending them mindlessly, because awareness is the first step toward discovery. Second, educate yourself about errors and varieties by reading numismatic publications, joining coin collecting forums, and studying images of known error types so your eye becomes trained to spot anomalies. Third, build a relationship with a reputable local coin dealer who can provide expert opinions when you find something suspicious and can help facilitate authentication through professional grading services if you make a significant discovery. Fourth, never clean suspicious coins because cleaning destroys value. Instead, handle potential finds carefully, store them in protective holders, and maintain them exactly as found until authentication can be completed. And fifth, spread the word to friends and family about what you've learned, because somewhere in their collections, their pocket change, or their forgotten storage boxes might be one of these $65 million treasures, and if your knowledge helps someone else make a life-changing discovery, you'll have done something genuinely meaningful even if you don't personally find one yourself. The world of rare coins is filled with stories of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries, and there's absolutely no reason why you can't be the next person to find a coin that changes your life forever. So get out there, start examining your change, check those old collections, and remember that every Roosevelt dime from 1987, 2000, 1997, or 1991 with a P mint mark deserves careful scrutiny, because you might be holding a fortune without even realizing it, and wouldn't that be an absolutely incredible way to discover that pocket change really can make you rich beyond your wildest dreams?